Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Music Beat Central podcast. I'm your host, Hanan Yuliano, and wherever you're listening from around the world, thank you so much for joining me today. Whether you're relaxing at home, driving to work, or coming back from work, out for a walk, exercising, cooking your lunch or dinner, or simply taking some time out of your day to enjoy some music conversation, I'm incredibly grateful that you've chosen to spend some of your time with me. You can listen to Music Beat Central on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. No matter where you listen, thank you for being a part of this growing community of music lovers. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share a small update with everyone. From this episode onwards, Music Beat Central will be an audio only podcast across all streaming platforms. After thinking about it for quite a while, I realized that audio is really where this podcast feels most at home right now. It allows me to focus completely on the conversations, the stories behind the music, discovering incredible independent artists, reviewing new releases, and celebrating everything that makes music such an important part of our lives. One of the things I love most about podcasts is how flexible they are. Unlike a video, you don't need to stop what you are doing to enjoy it. You can simply press play and take the podcast with you wherever your day takes you. Whether you're sitting in traffic, traveling on a train, working around the house, walking the dog, or relaxing after a busy day, I hope Music Beat Central becomes something you look forward to listening every week. And who knows, maybe one day I'll also expand into video podcasts. I'd absolutely love to sit down with artists, interview musicians, chat about albums face to face, and take you behind the scenes of the music industry. That would be an amazing experience. But for now, I'm really excited about continuing this journey through audio, and I genuinely appreciate every single person who's been supporting the podcast since episode one. If this is your first episode, welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's show and decide to stick around for future episodes. And if you've been listening since the beginning, thank you. Truly, thank you. Every stream, every follow, every rating, message, comment, every recommendation you make to a friend, it all means more than you probably realize. Starting a podcast is exciting, but it's also a little scary. You spend hours researching, writing, recording, editing, and hoping people enjoy what you've created. So every single listener makes a difference. Music Beat Central continues to grow because of people like you, and I honestly couldn't be more grateful. Today's episode is one I've been looking forward to for quite some time because we are going behind the scenes of something that many of us listen to every single day, but perhaps don't always stop to think about it. Have you ever listened to one of your favorite songs and wondered, hmm, how did this actually come together? Where did the idea begin? Who wrote it? How many people were involved? How long did it take? Why does one song instantly make you emotional while another makes you want to dance? How does a simple melody become something that millions or even billions of people connect with? That's exactly what we are exploring today. We will follow the journey of a song from the very first spark of inspiration all the way through songwriting, recording, producing, mixing, mastering, and finally releasing it to the world. We will also take a trip back through music history, share some fascinating music trivia, spotlight some incredibly talented independent artists, and finish by talking about why music continues to connect people all over the world, whether you're a musician, a songwriter, a producer, or simply someone who loves putting on headphones and escaping into the music. I think you're going to enjoy today's episode, so grab your favorite drink, turn the volume up, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the incredible world behind the songs we love. This is Music Beat Central. Every great song starts somewhere, not in a recording studio, not on stage, not on Spotify, not on the radio. It starts with an idea. And that's one of the most beautiful things about music. Before there are thousands of people singing along at concerts, before millions of streams, before awards, charts, or worldwide recognition, there was simply one person with one idea. That idea might arrive as a melody. Maybe someone is humming while they're driving. Perhaps they're walking through a park and a tune suddenly appears in their head. Sometimes inspiration comes completely out of nowhere. Other times it grows from a real life experience. It might be happiness, heartbreak, love, loss, friendship, hope, fear, excitement, or simply observing the world around us. Some of the greatest songs ever written were inspired by everyday moments that most people would probably overlook. A conversation, a photograph, a sunset, a letter, a childhood memory, a difficult goodbye. Even something as simple as watching people walk past a cafe can spark an idea that eventually becomes a song heard around the world. That's what fascinates me about songwriting. Music allows people to turn ordinary moments into extraordinary stories. Every songwriter has their own process. Some begin with lyrics, others begin with a melody. Some sit at a piano for hours until something clicks. Others pick up a guitar and experiment with different chord progressions. These days, many artists even create ideas using nothing more than their phone. Voice memo apps have become one of the most important songwriting tools in modern music. You'll often hear artists say they woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a melody in their head and quickly recorded themselves humming into their phone before they forgot it. Imagine that. A melody recorded half asleep could eventually become the next global hit. I actually love hearing stories like that because they remind us that creativity doesn't work on a schedule. Can't simply decide, right, 3 o'clock, time to write a hit song. Creativity doesn't always work that way. Sometimes ideas appear when we least expect them. Other times they refuse to appear at all. Songwriters often talk about something called writer's block. It's something almost every creative person experiences at some point. You know you want to create something, but nothing feels right. Every lyric sounds forced. Every melody sounds familiar. Every chord progression feels like you've heard it before. Can be frustrating, but interestingly, many artists say the best thing to do during writer's block isn't to force it. Instead, take a break, go for a walk, listen to different music, travel somewhere new, read a book, have conversations with people, experience life. Because the more life you experience, the more stories you have to tell. And music has always been about telling stories. Some stories are deeply personal, others are fictional. Some songs are celebrations, others become emotional outlets. Think about your own favorite songs for a moment. Why do they mean so much to you? Is it the lyrics, the melody, the memory attached to that song? Maybe it reminds you of someone special. Maybe it reminds you of growing up. Maybe it helps you through a difficult period in your life. That's something I absolutely love about music. Two people can listen to the exact same song, yet experience it in completely different ways. One person hears hope, another hears sadness, someone else hears motivation. Music becomes personal the moment we connect our own memories to it, and I think that's why songs stay with us for decades. They are no longer just songs, they become chapters of our lives. As listeners, we often hear the finished product 3 or 4 minutes, beautifully produced, everything sounding effortless. Oh my God, effortless. That's the word. Oh my gosh. But behind those few moments, there may have been months or even years of writing, rewriting, changing lyrics, removing verses, adding new melodies, starting again, completely changing the style. Some songs go through dozens of different versions before anyone outside the studio ever hears them. Imagine how many incredible ideas never make the final album. Many artists have spoken about writing 30 or 40 songs for an album that only ends up including 12. The remaining songs don't disappear because they're bad. Often they simply don't fit the story the artist wants to tell. Sometimes those songs later appear on another album. Sometimes another artist records them, and sometimes they stay hidden forever. It's amazing when you think about it. For every hit song we hear, there could be 20 more sitting on a hard drive somewhere that the public never gets to experience. Songwriting is really a journey of discovery. It's about following an idea wherever it leads. Sometimes that journey lasts an afternoon. Sometimes it lasts several years. But every unforgettable song begins exactly the same way, with one small spark of creativity, and without that first idea, none of the magic that follows would ever happen. Now we've discovered where song begins. Let's follow that idea into the next stage of the journey, because having a great idea is only the beginning. How does a rough melody or a few handwritten lyrics become something that starts sounding like the song we'll eventually hear on the radio? That's exactly where we're heading next as we explore turning ideas into music. So, we've just explored how every song begins with a simple idea. Maybe it's a melody that suddenly pops into someone's head. Maybe it's a line of lyrics written in a notebook. Or maybe it's a chord progression played on an old acoustic guitar sitting in the corner of a room. But what happens next? How does that rough idea become something that eventually ends up on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or the radio? Well, this is where the real adventure begins. Once an artist feels they've got the foundation of a song, the next step is usually creating what's called a demo. Now, if you have never heard rather that term before, don't worry. It's actually much simpler than it sounds. Think of a demo as a rough draft. It's like the first version of a painting before the artist adds all the final details, or the first draft of a novel before it's edited. The purpose of a demo isn't to sound perfect, it's simply there to capture the idea while it's still fresh. Sometimes a demo is recorded using nothing more than a mobile phone. Other times, it's created in a professional home studio with microphones, guitars, keyboards, and recording software. These days, technology has completely changed the way music is made. Years ago, artists often needed expensive recording studios just to get their ideas down. Today, a songwriter can create an incredible demo from a spare bedroom. In fact, some of today's biggest songs actually began in home studios. It's amazing to think that music heard by millions of people may have started with someone sitting at a small desk, wearing headphones, recording vocals under a blanket to reduce background noise. That really shows you that creativity doesn't depend on having expensive equipment. Great songs begin with great ideas. The equipment simply helps bring those ideas to life. One thing I find fascinating is that songs are constantly changing during this stage. First version is almost never the final version. A chorus might become a verse. A slow ballad might become an upbeat pop song. A rock song could suddenly become an acoustic track. Sometimes an artist writes an entire song, only to decide a few days later that it doesn't quite capture the emotion they are trying to express. So they start again. And that's perfectly normal. Creating music is rarely a straight line. It's a journey of experimenting, trying different ideas, keeping what works, removing what doesn't. Sometimes producers encourage artists to think it outside the box. What happens if we change the key? What if we speed it up? What if we strip everything back and let the vocals carry the emotion? Those simple questions can completely transform a song. One of the most exciting parts of this stage is hearing the song slowly come to life. At first, it's just a guitar, then maybe a piano joins in. Next comes a drum beat, bass line, backing vocals, strings, percussion. Little by little, the song begins developing into its own personality. My God, there's this fly that keeps going around, and I don't know where it came from. I'm in my apartment recording right now. Oh my gosh, it disappeared. Okay, sorry about that. Got distracted. Um, so yes, back to the episode. The song begins developing its own personality. It's almost like watching a puzzle come together. Each new piece adds another layer until suddenly everything makes sense. Of course, not every idea survives. Artists often try dozens of different arrangements before finding the right one. Some songs are recorded in 3 different styles before the final decision is made. Others have completely different lyrics compared to their earliest versions. And that's one of the things I really admire about musicians. They're willing to keep improving, keep experimenting, keep chasing the best possible version of their music. Because at the end of the day, they're not just creating a song, they're creating an experience. They are creating something that might one day become part of someone else's life. A song that might be played at a wedding, a birthday, a graduation, a road trip, or maybe during one of life's more difficult moments. That's a pretty incredible responsibility. Every note matters, every lyric matters, every emotion matters. And that's why artists spend so much time perfecting their work before anyone ever hears it. Now, eventually, there comes a moment when everyone involved says, I think we've got it. The songwriting is finished. The arrangement feels right. The demo has done its job. It's finally time to head into the recording studio. And believe me, that's where the magic really starts to happen. For many musicians, walking into a recording studio never loses its magic. Whether it's their very first session or their hundredth, there's something incredibly exciting about stepping into a room where ideas become reality. Recording studios are fascinating places. From the outside, they often look surprisingly ordinary. But once you step inside, you're surrounded by microphones, mixing consoles, speakers, musical instruments, computer screens, cables everywhere, and a team of creative people all working towards one goal: creating the best possible recording. One thing many people don't realize is that recording a song is rarely as simple as pressing one button and performing it from beginning to end. In most cases, every instrument is recorded separately. The drums might be recorded first, then bass guitar, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, piano, strings, synthesizers, percussion, backing vocals, lead vocals. Each performance becomes another layer that will eventually form the complete song. It's a little bit like building a house. You don't start with the roof, you build one section at a time until everything fits together. And then there are the vocals. This is often where artists spend the most time. People sometimes imagine singers walking into the studio, singing the song once, and that's it. But in reality, professional vocal sessions can take hours, sometimes days, even weeks. A singer might record the same chorus 20 times, not because they're making mistakes, but because everyone is searching for the perfect emotional performance. Maybe take number 3 has the strongest opening. Take number 7 has the best high notes. Take 12 captures the emotion perfectly. The producer and engineer then combine those moments into the final vocal performance. It's a process called comping, and it's used throughout the music industry. Another interesting part of recording is layering. When you hear a huge chorus on your favorite song, there's a good chance you're actually hearing many different vocal recordings playing together. The lead vocal, harmony vocals, double-tracked vocals, whispered vocals, background harmonies. Each layer adds depth, richness, emotion, without listeners even realizing it. Sometimes artists also record little details that many people never consciously notice: a quiet clap, a breath before the chorus, a guitar slide, a finger tapping on a microphone stand, a soft vocal in the background. Individually, they might seem insignificant, but together they create atmosphere. One thing I absolutely love is hearing stories about happy accidents in the studio. There have been countless occasions where something unexpected happened during recording, and instead of deleting it, the artist decided to keep it. Maybe someone laughed. Maybe a guitar made an unusual sound. Maybe a vocal cracked with emotion. Sometimes those imperfect moments become the most memorable parts of the song. It reminds us that music doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. Sometimes imperfection is exactly what makes it beautiful. Recording sessions can also be incredibly emotional. Imagine recording a song you've written about losing someone you love or about overcoming a personal struggle. There are stories of artists becoming overwhelmed with emotion while recording. Some have cried during vocal takes. Others needed to stop recording for a while just to collect themselves. Because music isn't simply about singing notes, it's about telling the truth, and sometimes the truth is emotional. That's why listeners connect with genuine performances. We can hear honesty, we can hear vulnerability, and we can feel it. Of course, recording sessions aren't always serious. Some are filled with laughter, inside jokes, creative experiments, late night pizza deliveries, coffee, lots and lots of coffee, because creativity often takes time. Some artists love recording during the day, others do their best work after midnight. There really aren't any rules. Every artist finds the rhythm that works best for them. Once every instrument has been recorded, every vocal completed, every harmony captured, the recording stage finally comes to an end. But believe it or not, the song still isn't finished, not even close. In many ways, the next stage is where everything finally comes together, because all of those individual recordings now have to become one seamless listening experience. That's exactly where producers, mixing engineers, mastering engineers take over. So we've gone from an idea to demo to a full recording session. But how do dozens of separate recordings suddenly become one polished song that sounds incredible through your headphones, in your car, on the radio, or through a concert sound system? That's exactly what we will explore next as we step behind the scenes of one of the most important jobs in the music industry, the producer. So we've made it through songwriting process. We've followed the journey from a simple idea to a demo and then into the recording studio. But now it's time to talk about one of the most important people behind almost every successful song, the producer. Now, when people think about music, the first person they usually picture is the artist. They're the face of the song. They are the ones performing on stage. They are the ones appearing in music videos and accepting awards. But behind the scenes, there is often someone else helping shape every decision you hear. That's the producer. I've always liked comparing a music producer to a movie director. Think about your favorite film. The actors might be the stars, but it's the director who helps bring the story together. They guide performances, help shape the emotion, decide how scenes should unfold, and make sure every piece fits together. A music producer does something very similar. They're listening to the big picture. They're asking questions like, does this chorus feel big enough? Should we slow this section down? What if we stripped everything back and just left the piano? Can we make the moment even more emotional? Sometimes a producer will hear something that nobody else notices. A tiny change in the arrangement, a different drum sound, a slightly softer vocal, a different guitar tone. Small changes that listeners might never consciously recognize, but they will definitely feel. And that's the magic. Great producers don't just make songs sound better, they help songs connect with people emotionally. One of the things I find fascinating is that producers wear so many different hats. Some are incredible musicians, others are engineers, some are songwriters themselves, others specialize in creating beats or electronic music. Every producer brings something unique to the table. Some are very hands on. They are in the studio encouraging artists, suggesting ideas, helping rewrite lyrics, even playing instruments if needed. Others take a more relaxed approach. They simply create an environment where artists feel comfortable enough to perform at their very best. Because here's something that's easy to forget. Recording music can actually be quite vulnerable. You're putting your emotions into a microphone. You're singing words that might be deeply personal. You're hoping listeners will connect with your story. That's why trust between an artist and producer is so important. The best producers know how to get the very best performance without making the artist feel pressured. Sometimes all it takes is saying, hey, let's try one more take, or I think you've got something really special here. That encouragement can completely change a recording session. Another thing producers often do is challenge artists creatively. Maybe an artist has written a fantastic song, but the producer thinks the chorus could be even stronger. Maybe they suggest changing the key. Maybe they recommend adding live strings. Maybe they remove half the instruments. It sounds strange, but sometimes removing sounds actually makes a song more powerful. Silence can be just as important as noise. Giving music room to breathe allows emotion to shine through. That's something I've really come to appreciate. Not every second of a song needs to be filled. Sometimes the quietest moments become the most memorable. Music is all about dynamics, taking listeners on a journey, building anticipation, creating tension, then delivering that emotional payoff. A great producer understands exactly how to do that. And when everything finally comes together, it feels effortless. Even though we know hundreds of hours may have gone into creating those few minutes of music, I think producers deserve far more recognition than they often receive. Without them, many of our favorite songs would sound completely different. So now we've got all the recordings, every instrument has been played, every vocal has been captured, the producer's happy, the artist is happy, but the song still isn't ready for release. Now comes one of the most technical yet incredibly important stages of making music: mixing and mastering. If songwriting is the heart of music and recording is the body, then mixing and mastering are the finishing touches that bring everything to life. Let's start with mixing. Imagine you're cooking your favorite meal. You might have fantastic ingredients, fresh vegetables, beautiful herbs, quality meat, great spices. But if one ingredient completely overpowers the others, the meal won't taste balanced. Music works exactly the same way. A recording might contain 50 or 60 or even over 100 different tracks: lead vocals, backing vocals, drums, bass, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, piano, strings, synthesizer, percussion, sound effects. Each one needs its own place. That's where the mixing engineer comes in. They are balancing everything, making sure nothing fights for attention. Maybe the vocals need to come forward. Maybe the bass is too loud. Maybe the guitars are covering the piano. Maybe the kick drum needs more impact. Every tiny adjustment helps create a clearer listening experience. Mixing is also where effects are added: reverb, delay, compression, equalization. Now, those words might sound technical, but you've definitely heard them. Reverb creates a sense of space. It's why some vocals sound like they are being sung inside a cathedral, while others feel intimate, as though the artist is sitting right beside you. Delay creates echoes. Compression helps control volume. Equalization shapes the tone of every instrument. All these little adjustments work together to make a song sound polished. Here's something interesting. Some people spend hours mixing just one song. Others spend days, sometimes weeks. Why? Because they're chasing perfection. Listening through different speakers, different headphones, car stereos, Bluetooth speakers, even tiny phone speakers. Why? Because today's music is listened to everywhere. Your favorite song should sound just as good through expensive studio monitors as it does through your earbuds while you're walking down the street. Then comes mastering. This is the final quality check before release. Mastering ensures songs have consistent volume, balanced frequencies, professional clarity. It prepares music for streaming services, radio, CD, vinyl, television, and live playback. Think of mastering like adding the final polish to a beautiful piece of furniture. The craftsmanship, sorry, was already there. Mastering simply makes it shine. And here's something listeners often don't realize. When you're listening to an album, mastering also makes sure every song flows naturally into the next one. Nothing suddenly sounds much louder or much quieter. Everything feels cohesive, professional, finished. It's one of those jobs most people never think about. Yet, we've immediately noticed if it wasn't done properly. The amazing thing is, after all these months of writing, recording, editing, mixing, mastering, the song might only be 3.5 minutes long. Isn't that incredible? Hundreds of hours, countless creative decisions, dozens of people working together, all for one song. I think knowing everything that goes into creating music makes me appreciate artists even more. Next time you listen to one of your favorite songs, take a moment, really listen. Notice the harmonies, the instruments, the little details, because every sound you're hearing was placed there for a reason. Now that we've gone behind the scenes of how songs are created, let's lighten things up a little. Because music is filled with amazing stories, surprising records, and fascinating facts that many people have never heard before. So it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show. Welcome back, everyone. It's time for music trivia time, and I have to admit, I absolutely love putting this section together. The more I research music, the more I realize there are so many incredible stories hiding behind the songs we all know and love. So let's see how many of these facts surprise you. Did you know some of the world's biggest hit songs were written incredibly quickly? While many songs take months or even years to finish, there are famous tracks that were written in less than half an hour. Sometimes inspiration arrives all at once. Songwriters often describe those moments as if the song almost wrote itself. Of course, that's the exception rather than the rule. For every song completed in 20 minutes, there are many more that go through dozens of rewrites before reaching the finish line. Here's another fascinating one. Artists often record far more songs than appear on an album. Imagine spending months creating 30 or 40 songs, only choosing 12. That's actually quite common. The remaining songs might be released later, given to another artist, or simply stay hidden in the archives forever. Now, here's something I think is really interesting. Some of the most famous songs in history were actually offered to completely different artists first. Can you imagine hearing one of your favorite songs performed by someone else? Sometimes artists decline songs because they don't feel the lyrics suit them, or they are working on a different musical direction. That decision can completely change music history. Another fun fact: studio recordings aren't always perfect. Sometimes the sounds you hear weren't planned. A laugh, a chair squeaking, someone counting in, a guitar string buzzing. Instead of editing those moments out, artists actually, you know, they occasionally leave them in because they add personality. Those little imperfections reminds us that real people made the music. Technology has also changed music dramatically. Decades ago, editing involved physically cutting tape. Today, digital software allows producers to move notes, adjust timing, layer harmonies, and experiment almost endlessly. Geez, I don't know what is going on here. First was effortlessly and endlessly. It's words that I don't use that often. I apologize, guys. Yet, despite all those technological advances, one thing has never changed. A great song still begins with creativity. No amount of technology can replace genuine emotion. Here's one final thought I'd like to leave with you. Music is one of the few things in life that almost everyone experiences. No matter where we live, what language we speak, or what culture we are a part of, music has the ability to make us feel something: joy, sadness, hope, excitement, comfort, connection. And I think that's why it continues to bring people together generation after generation. I'd love to know, which music fact surprised you the most? Or maybe you know an amazing piece of music trivia that I haven't mentioned today. If you do, send me a message on Facebook or Instagram at Music Beat Central. I'd love to include some listener submitted trivia in a future episode. Who knows? Your fact might be featured on the show. So, my next point is this week in music history. One of my favorite parts of putting this podcast together is looking back at the moments that helped shape the music industry we know today. Music is constantly evolving, but every generation leaves behind songs, artists, and performances that inspire the next. So let's take a journey back in time and discover what happened this week, in music history. Let's begin in 1984. Around this time, Bruce Springsteen was enjoying one of the biggest moments of his career with the incredible success of Born in the USA. When I say that word, it's like I can hear the song in my head, which I'm sure it happens to many of you guys as well. It's difficult to overstate just how influential this album became. Not only did it produce 7 top 10 singles, but it also became one of the best-selling albums of all time. What's remarkable is that the songs explored everyday life, working class struggles, hope, and resilience, yet they resonated with audiences all over the world. It showed that music doesn't have to be complicated to be powerful. Sometimes honesty, storytelling is enough. I meant to say sometimes honest storytelling is enough, not honesty. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm all talked out. So, but I honestly, I'm loving it so far. So I'm really grateful that I can share this segment with you guys today. And decades later, those songs continue to be played on radio stations, in stadiums, and across streaming platforms. That's the sign of a truly timeless album. Now let's rewind even further, back to 1967. This was an incredibly exciting period in music. Rock music was evolving rapidly, artists were experimenting more than ever before, and listeners were hearing sounds they'd never experienced. Around this week, The Doors released Light My Fire. The song became their breakthrough hit and remains one of the defining songs of the psychedelic rock era. Its extended instrumental sections encouraged musicians to think differently about songwriting. Songs no longer had to follow the same traditional structure. Artists suddenly realized they could experiment. Around the same time, bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, and others were pushing musical boundaries even further. Studio recording itself became another instrument. Producers began experimenting with tape effects, backwards recordings, orchestras, and innovative production techniques. Many of the recording methods developed during the late 1960s still influence producers today. Here in Australia, the beginning of July always reminds me of one of the country's proudest musical moments. As preparations build towards the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games, Australian performers were rehearsing for what would become one of the most memorable opening ceremonies ever staged. When Tina Arena performed during the opening ceremony, it wasn't simply another performance. It became part of Australian history. Millions of people around the world watched. Her incredible voice showcased Australian talent on one of the world's biggest stages. It's moments like these that reminds us music isn't only entertainment. It becomes part of history. It captures emotion. It creates memories that stay with us forever. Let's also celebrate a music birthday this week. The birthday's already happened because we are now the 2nd of July when I publish this. But on the 1st of July, Debbie Harry, the iconic lead singer of Blondie, celebrates another birthday. Blondie helped define the sound of new wave and pop rock during the late 1970s and early 1980s. Songs like Heart of Glass, Call Me, and The Tide is High continue introducing new generations to her incredible voice. What I admire most about Debbie Harry is how fearless she was. She wasn't afraid to mix genres, pop, rock, punk, disco. She embraced creativity, and that willingness to experiment helped make Blondie one of the most influential bands of their era. Looking back at these moments reminds us that today's artists are creating tomorrow's history. Somewhere in the world today, someone is rather writing their very first song, someone is recording their debut single, someone is stepping onto a stage for the very first time. Perhaps years from now, we will be talking about them during a future edition of This Week in Music History. And I think that's something really special. History isn't finished, it's still being written. Now, speaking of artists making their mark, it's time for one of my absolute favorite parts of every episode, the Music Beat Central Artist Spotlight. This is where we celebrate independent musicians who are creating fantastic music outside the mainstream. I genuinely love this part of the podcast because there's so much incredible talent waiting to be discovered. So let's dive in. Every episode, I like to shine a light on artists who deserve a little more attention. Independent musicians put so much heart into their music, their writing, recording, promoting, performing, often doing everything themselves. Supporting independent artists has become one of the most rewarding parts of creating Music Beat Central. So today, let's meet 4 artists whose music, rather, really stood out. Our first one is Levi, the creative force behind Toffee Nut Orion, with the beautiful instrumental piece Dust Over Kora. From the very first few seconds, I knew this wasn't going to be your typical electronic track. It immediately creates a sense of space. The opening textures almost feel like you're standing somewhere vast and peaceful just before sunrise. As more layers slowly enter the mix, the song grows naturally without ever feeling rushed. One thing I really appreciated was the patience. In today's world, we're often used to songs jumping straight into the chorus, but Dust Over Kora allows the listener to settle in. It invites you to simply listen, The piano melodies are beautiful. The ambient textures create atmosphere. The percussion gradually builds emotion without becoming overwhelming. It's cinematic, relaxing, thought provoking. I could easily imagine hearing this piece in a documentary, a film soundtrack, or even while watching breathtaking scenery unfold on screen. This is music that rewards careful listening. Every time you return to it, you'll probably notice another little detail hidden in the production. So, our rating for this one out of 5, 4.5 stars out of 5. Congratulations to Levi on creating such a beautiful musical journey. Now, let's head across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand. Today's second spotlight belongs to Chutes and their outstanding, new single, Rivers. If you're someone who enjoys powerful guitars, memorable choruses, and honest songwriting, you're going to enjoy this one. What struck me immediately was the band's energy. Everything feels purposeful. The guitars have plenty of punch. The rhythm section keeps everything moving. The vocals carry real emotion. But what impressed me most was the songwriting. The lyrics explore mental health, self reflection, and finding balance in an increasingly busy world. Those are themes that many of us can relate to. Rather than simply writing another rock song, Powder Shoots have created something that feels personal, authentic, honest. The chorus is incredibly memorable. It's easy to imagine crowds singing every word back during live performances, and I honestly think that's one of the biggest compliments you can give any rock band. It's music that belongs on stage. If Rivers is a preview of what's coming on their next album, I think rock fans have plenty to look forward to. And our star is 5 out of 5. Fantastic work, Powder Shoots. Next, we slow things down with something completely different. It's called A.N.S.H, which stands for AI Needs Some Help, by Florian and the Better Hand. One of the things I enjoy most about reviewing music is discovering songs that surprise me. This was one of those songs. It's gentle, warm, honest. The acoustic instrumentation immediately creates a welcoming atmosphere. The banjo adds character, the finger-picked guitar feels incredibly intimate, and the vocals sound like someone sitting across from you telling a story. That's actually what I loved most. Nothing feels forced. There's a sincerity running through the entire track. Sometimes simple arrangements can have the biggest emotional impact. This is one of those songs. If you enjoy indie folk, acoustic storytelling, or artists who let their songwriting speak for itself, I definitely recommend giving this one a listen. And our star rating out of 5 is 5 out of 5. Congratulations to Florian and the Better Hand on such a thoughtful and heartfelt release. Our final spotlight today takes us all the way to Botswana. One of the things I absolutely love about creating this podcast is discovering artists from countries all over the world. Music truly has no borders. Today's final spotlight belongs to Flexi R7 and Young Lava Kids with their upcoming trap release, Trippin'. It's fantastic seeing artists from different countries collaborating and reaching international audiences. The production is polished, the energy is high, the confidence comes through immediately. And it's another reminder that incredible music is being created everywhere, not just by a major record label. Independent artists are changing the music landscape. Streaming has opened doors that simply didn't exist 20 years ago. Today, someone in Botswana can release music that reaches listeners in Australia, Europe, North America, South America, literally anywhere. That's something worth celebrating. And our star rating out of 5, 4 out of 5. Congratulations to both artists, and I wish you every success with the release. And thank you guys so much for reaching out again. This is the second time, or maybe third time? No, second time, sorry, that they've reached out to um, send out their new song. So this is their second release together. So all the best to both of them. Before we move on, I'd like to say a huge thank you to every independent artist who continues sharing their music with Music Beat Central. Reviewing your music has become one of the highlights of producing this podcast. Every artist has a story. Every song represents hours of creativity, hard work, and passion. And every stream, every follow, and every share genuinely makes a difference. If you're an independent musician and you'd like your music featured on a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out through our Facebook and Instagram pages or email the show at musicbeatcentralblog@gmail.com. Who knows, your next release could be featured in an upcoming artist spotlight. Well, we've traveled through music history. We've gone behind the scenes of the recording process, and we've discovered some fantastic independent artists. To finish today's episode, I'd like to leave you with one final thought about something I believe sits at the very heart of music. Why does the music continue to bring people together, no matter where we come from? Let's explore that in our final segment before we wrap up episode 5. As we begin wrapping up today's episode, I'd like to slow things down for a few minutes and leave you with something I've been thinking about a lot lately. We've spent today's episode exploring how music is written, recorded, produced, and shared with the world. We've traveled back through music history. We've discovered some amazing independent artists. But when you really stop and think about it, music is so much more than simply something we listen to. It's something we feel. Have you ever noticed how one song can instantly transport you back to a particular moment in your life? Maybe it's a song that reminds you of your childhood. Maybe it's the first dance at a wedding, a family holiday, a road trip with friends, a graduation. Or perhaps it's a song that helps you through one of the most difficult times in your life. Music has this incredible ability to become part of our memories. Sometimes we don't even realize it. Years can pass without hearing a particular song. Then suddenly it comes on the radio. Within seconds, you're back in that exact moment. You remember where you were, who you were with, how you felt. Even the smallest details come flooding back. That's something I find absolutely amazing. Very few things have that kind of power. Music somehow becomes the soundtrack to our lives. Every chapter seems to have its own songs. The music we listened to as kids, the artists we discovered as teenagers, the songs we played while learning to drive, the music we celebrated with, the music that comforted us. Every stage of life seems to carry its own soundtrack. And that's one of the reasons I love talking about music so much. It's something almost everyone has in common. No matter where you live, what language you speak, or what culture you're part of, music connects us. You don't always need to understand the lyrics to appreciate a song. Sometimes emotion says everything. A melody can make you smile. A piano can make you emotional. Powerful vocal performance can give you goosebumps. A guitar solo can make your heart race. That's the universal language of music. It speaks directly to us without needing translation. One of the most exciting things about today's music world is how connected we've become. Streaming services have completely changed the way we discover artists. Years ago, most of us listened mainly to artists from our own country or those played regularly on radio stations. Today, with just a few taps on a phone, we can discover incredible musicians from almost anywhere in the world. One day, you might discover an indie folk artist from Germany. The next day, a rock band from New Zealand, a hip hop artist from Botswana, an electronic producer from Norway, or a singer songwriter from Australia. The world has become one enormous playlist, and I think that's something worth celebrating. One thing I've become even more passionate about since starting Music Beat Central is supporting independent musicians. Behind every independent release is a story. There's an artist who believed in an idea, spent countless hours writing, practiced until late at night, saved money to record their music, worked with producers and engineers, designed artwork, promoted their release, shared it online, and finally pressed that publish button. That takes courage. Creating music is incredibly personal. Sharing it with the world is even harder. That's why every stream matters, every follow matters, every playlist edition matters, every concert ticket, every comment, every share. Those small actions may seem insignificant, but to an independent artist, they can mean everything. Sometimes simply telling a friend about an artist you enjoy can completely change the artist's career. Music grows through people sharing it. Word of mouth is still one of the most powerful forms of support. So I'd encourage everyone listening today, the next time you discover a song you genuinely love, share it, tell someone about it, add it to a playlist, leave a positive comment, support the artist however you can, because today's independent musicians could very well become tomorrow's global stars. Before I finish today's episode, I'd just like to say thank you. Whether this is the very first episode you've listened to, or you've been with me since episode 1, I honestly appreciate your support. Creating this podcast has been such a rewarding experience. Every week, I get to research music, learn something new, discover incredible artists, and then share that journey with all of you. It's something I genuinely enjoy doing. Reading your messages, seeing people listening from different places around the world, watching this community slowly grow is incredibly encouraging. Music Beat Central isn't just my podcast anymore. It's becoming a community of people who simply love music. And that's exactly what I hoped rather it would become. So thank you for helping making that happen. I truly appreciate every single one of you. I'm already looking forward to what's to come next. There are so many exciting topics still to explore. We'll continue discovering talented independent artists from around the globe. We'll revisit legendary albums, explore fascinating moments in music history, review new releases, talk about different genres, dive behind the scenes of the music industry, and celebrate everything that makes music such an important part of our lives. If there's ever a topic you'd like me to cover or an independent artist you'd like me to check out, please let me know. I'd love to hear your suggestions. After all, this podcast isn't just about my love of music, it's about yours. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 5 of Music Beat Central. I hope you've enjoyed joining me as we've explored the incredibly sorry guys, as we've explored the incredible journey. If you've listened through the whole podcast, the hour of this podcast, I appreciate your patience and for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Back to my last part of the show, explored the incredible journey of how music is made. From that very first spark of inspiration through songwriting, demo recordings, studio sessions, production, mixing, and mastering, all the way to discovering some fantastic independent artists and looking back at memorable moments in music history. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow the podcast, leave a rating or review, and share it with someone else who loves music. Every follow, every review, and every recommendation helps Music Beat Central reach more listeners and supports the growth of independent podcasts like this one. You can listen to Music Beat Central on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you'll find the latest music news, artist spotlights, behind the scene updates, episode announcements, and plenty more throughout the week. And if you're an independent artist or band with new music you'd like featured in a future artist spotlight, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message through our social media pages or email musicbeatcentralblog@gmail.com. It doesn't matter where you're from or what style of music you create. If you're passionate about your music, I'd love the opportunity to listen and potentially feature you on the show. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Music has always brought people together, long before streaming services, before smartphones, long before social media. Music connected families, friends, communities, and complete strangers. And despite how much the world changes, that will never change. There will always be another song waiting to inspire someone, another artist ready to share their story, another melody that becomes part of someone's life. And that's the real magic of music. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I'm Hanan Giuliano, and it's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Until next time, keep discovering new music, keep supporting independent artists, keep celebrating creativity, and most importantly, never stop listening. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Music Beat Central. Much love and ciao for now.